All right, so Mile High Card Company, their summer auction just ended, and I want to cover the top 25 sales. So let's take a look at it. Now, criteria buyer's premium is going to be 20%. It's included on all the cards prices that are featured in this video. Taxes and shipping not included. Also, I can't 100% confirm it if a buyer has paid for a card or not. And for the top 25 list, only cards are shown. I threw a few other things in the honorable mentions, so we'll cover that. But again, this is mostly a card focused video. All right, up first we have the 1949 Leaf Jackie Robinson. This typically sells at every auction house and will make the top 25 list. This 5 sold for $21,493. 1969 Joe Morgan Hall of Famer. There's 3 PSA 10s out there. This is a new cert, and this one sold for $21,000 and $828. All right, 1952 Bowman Mickey Mantle. Super old cert on this one. I'm not going to cover this too much in detail. Everyone knows Mantle has his 52 tops and Bowman. There's a few other 52 Mantle cards out there that I wish to see sell more often. But regardless, there is a 52 Bowman and a PSA 8, a full set later in this video. So we'll cover that. And this one sold for $22,000. 1952 Eddie Matthews. What's crazy about this card is the most expensive rookie card, top produced in lower grade for a base, and this one sold for $22,921. Now, there's not as much of a big jump in the Matthews from like a 1, 2, or 3 to a 7 compared to where I thought it would be. Obviously, I don't really pay attention to the Eddie Matthews market as much as I probably should, but even in a low grade like a 1 or 2, his rookie card I believe is like $2,000 to $3,000. So, and it's a high number, and they don't come around that often. 1959 tops Mickey Mantle on an 8.5. There's 72 8.5s out there, which I was kind of surprised about, but there's 28 9s and 10s. This one sold for $23,466. A 1967 top set. I mentioned that there was 556 out of the 609 cards, 615 cards in total with the different variations. This one sold for about $23,500. 2009 Exquisite Steph Curry on-card autograph, widely considered one of the top Curry rookie autos out there, and this one sold for $25,666. He does have his National Treasure, which I would assume most people would say would be his best autograph out there. I don't follow basketball, so I would assume this is easily a top 3 or top 5 just based off of the Exquisite brand, but correct me if I am wrong. 1962 Jello complete set. Really odd number being 197 for the full set of these. Also, when I was reading the description, they mentioned that there is short printed cards, possibly due to Jello having unpopular favors back in 62, or at least that's a theory out there. I don't collect the Jello cards, so I am curious who those players are that are short printed and how expensive that they go for. I actually have seen one of these full Jello boxes before at a card show, and man, it was awesome. All right, up next we have a 1939 Ted Williams. He has 2 of these technically. He has the Canadian, which is mentioned as Worldwide Gum, and then also a Gaudi like this as well. They're not super popular, but they are pretty rare, and both are much tougher to find than the play ball. I say common. The play ball is not necessarily a common today, but you can find them out there at card shows or on eBay or wherever else you end up purchasing them. But regardless, this one in a 6 sold for $30,674. All right, 2000 playoff contenders Tom Brady autograph. There, again, widely considered one of the best Brady autos. This card also has a number to 100 parallel, which really significantly increases the price point. This one sold for $33,000. 1984 Star Jordan, and I'm not gonna lie, this is a super generous 7. Taking a look at this, I don't think this crosses over if you're gonna crack this out. I think this is like a 5 video, but 34,000 on this BVG7. 1955 Clemente rookie. There's 15 SGC 8s out there, and this sold for about $34,693. Really nice looking copy on this one. A Kareem rookie. There's a lot more 8s than I thought. 170 PSA 8s out there, and there's only 29s and 10s. So it's a pretty good grade to get on this card. About $36,000 in the 13th spot. Jumping into 12 is the 1971 O-Pee-Chee Nolan Ryan. Now, the interesting thing about this design is there's no Topps PSA 10s out there, but there are 2 PSA 10s of the 1971 O-Pee-Chees. So if you're trying to get a Nolan Ryan run in like 9s and 10s, O-Pee-Chee's the only way to get a 10 in a 71 Ryan. The backs are different on these. I actually really like the 71 O-Pee-Chee backs. And this one sold for $37,658. In the 11th spot, 1933 Gaudi, one of the 4 cards in the set. He also has the Worldwide Gum that looks like this, very similar. I can't remember if this exact pose is in the Worldwide Gum set, but regardless, there's 19 of these that are graded higher at SGC, and I thought this was a good looking 6.5. All right, before we jump into our top 10, let's jump into some of these honorable mentions. So up first, a quad panel card from 1934 through 36, Diamond Stars. The only Hall of Famer on there, I believe, is Bill Terry. I showed you guys the back because I wasn't sure if it was going to be like a salesman sample or not. But I don't know, is this like part of an uncut sheet or like what? I'm kind of curious the story behind these 4. Up next, the silk pillowcases. So these were generated by the same company that created Turkey Red cabinets. Here's the information I grabbed from the auction house. So for 100 gift slips, collectors could claim this exquisite piece featuring illustrations, figures like Chris Mathewson, Home Run Baker, Tris Speaker, Walter Johnson, and Ty Cobb, all of them featured on this card. 1958 Topps Football Pack. This is known for the Jim Brown rookie year. And even look at this, right? Like way off center, which is so common for this release. This was a really awesome card. Ted Williams on the front and then Babe Dirksen here on the back. She's widely considered one of the best female athletes of all time. 2 gold medals, and also was more famous as a golfer. Her first card, though, is in the early 1930s. And Ted Williams' first card is in 1939. This one sold for $5,776. I don't really see these dual-sided Bond Brents often either, so this definitely had to be shown. Actually, there's going to be a lot of Ted Williams cards shown shortly. Up next is a 1954 Wilson Franks, one of his most popular cards, regional fid issue. The most popular player in this set. I think this is a really awesome card. If it was cheaper, I'd definitely try to grab one for my collection, but it's a pretty pricey card to grab. Another one, 1955 Wilson Franks. I wasn't actually familiar with these. I only thought Wilson Franks was a 1-year release, but this was a set of 4 featuring baseball books. Bob Biller, Harvey, Sammy White, and Ted Williams. This one sold for $3,000, which shows you it's nowhere near as popular, right? $2,900 versus a 3, which sold for $7,500. And I don't know the pop on these 55s, but I have not seen one of these at a card show, and I've seen a handful of the 54s. I mean, I've seen a good amount at the National, but outside of the National. All right, Ovechkin. This is an RPA of his $6,000. I know it's a 6, but it kind of feels cheap because Ovechkin is second of all time compared to like Wayne Gretzky's for all time goals. I don't know how well he's going towards that rate right now. I think he slowed down a lot last season. I don't follow hockey that closely, but regardless, I had to show this one, as well as the Vezina. Vezina is known kind of as like the trophy given to the best goalie each season, but he has a few pre-war cards, so more than a few. He has a decent amount, but this is widely his most famous card, and this one in that too sold for close to $7,000. Ted Williams over here, 1959 Fleer. This was the only PSA 10 out there, so For those registry collectors, they had to duke it out, and this one sold slightly under $8,000. A 1955 doubleheader. These are unperforated and blank back proof issues, and the full set of these sold for $10,000, which I think is actually a pretty good deal because, and this again, this is my own opinion, but if you get like the Jackie and the Ted Williams, the Aaron, you know, at least those three, and I know there's still Spawn, Killebrew, and Kaline, at least on this front page over here, but I think those three, if you get those slabbed up and documentation that these are proofs, you'll do pretty well. So, plus I think you have the full set associated with it, not just these 6 cards. It's been a while since I looked at the listing, so I think it's awesome. All right, another really awesome piece over here is a contract by Willie Mays for his Topps cards, and he was paid about $125 a year, which is about $1,500 in today's value, which seems very cheap for Topps to use your image, but I have no idea. Nowadays, obviously, it would also include contracts to have X amount of autograph cards and all these other types of products. But this one sold for $11,322. E125 Honest Wagner. This set is pretty scarce. There's also boxers in there. There's only 11 copies known to exist of this Wagner. There is a batting version as well. And just to show you how much this has spiked over the last, 7 years or so, which 2017 still feels like a few years ago, but regardless, a 2.5 did 7,200, and this is an authentic, and it sold for 12,738. Icy Bear set. This is number 7 all-time set, and 9.52 GPA. This one sold for $13,821. You don't see these that often. These are some of the leathers created by Helmer. These, and just go over a little bit of information about them. 10 coupons were needed to get a T3, 25 coupons for an S81 silk, and 50 coupons were required to obtain a L1 leather, which explains why they're so much more elusive compared to the other two. You don't see these that often. I don't think you can get these slabbed, but I could be wrong. So correct me if I'm wrong. But I've not seen these any slabbed, but the others you can. All right, modern side of things. 2009 Trout Refractor 10, number to 500. Most popular Trout auto, 14,000. I know people complain about the Trout market being so low, but still, I mean, this fetched almost $15,000. AL home run leaders. There's 2 multi-signed autograph cards, which I thought were pretty cool. There could have been more, but this one featured Mansell, Killebrew, Maris, and I can't read that last name over there, but 7284. Another one over here that had Mansell, Maris, Lemon, and Colvito. This sold for 16, essentially double, right? And this is also the 1960 home run leaders, and it's 1961 card. So the Mansell Maris home run race. Although you could say the same thing, the 61 home run leaders, you have Mansell and Maris on there. So either way, both kind of cool. It was kind of interesting how this did half of what this one did over here. And they both featured 4 players. All right, 93 Finest Ken Griffey Jr. Refractor. One of the most popular cards in the 1990s. And this is the first refractor set, or first set you could really find refractor cards, but 17656. 1950 Menko Ted Williams. I guess I should have put this in the Ted Williams section. Pretty rare Japanese issue, 21493 in a 2. Some original art, which I thought was pretty sweet. John Sullivan defeated. This was from Topps Scoop back in 1954. There's so many of these original pieces. I could have shared them with you guys, but I'll show you too. So this is on the boxing side of things, and then the non-sports, very famous Knight, and this one sold for $25,000. Which, by the way, if you guys like non-sports, make sure to check out my vintage non-sports card collectors Facebook group. I think we're at like 2.1K or 2.2K members, and you'll learn a lot by joining in there. Tons of active members buying, selling, trading, and getting a lot more information about these type of cards. I know there's not a lot of documentation out there, and we have collectors all across the world. And I think this last honorable mention, I know there's a lot this auction, but there's a lot of cool pieces to bring up. But this is a 1915 Type 1 photo with Babe Ruth on the Boston Red Sox team. It is sold for $85,000. And this is the only known copy of this Type 1. Well, another Babe Ruth. They had a barnstorming program, and this was signed by Urban Shocker as well as Babe Ruth souvenir scorecard over here. All right, now we're into our top 10. Let's jump into it. So 1986 Fleer sticker of Michael Jordan. What I found interesting, there's only 127 of these in a PSA 10 compared to 325. But obviously, the non-sticker is much more popular. This one sold for $47,000. Whereas the card, sells for about $200,000 right now, depending on eye appeal. 1921 E121 Ruth. This one sold for $48,000. I thought this too looked pretty nice, at least from the appearance on it. Obviously, it's diagonal cut, or at least that's what it looks like in this photo. And this was issued just 1 year after he joined the Yankees. And what I found interesting in the description of this is it still had Babe Ruth's in a Boston jersey. 1978 Eddie Murray. There's only 19 PSA 10s out there. The last 10 sold in 2023 for $39,000, and we got a nice little bump, $50,000. Obviously, there's a lot of eye appeal associated with some 10s, but this one looks really good. 1968 Bench rookie card. Also, this card design is featured in a Venny. There's only 17 PSA 10s. Someone got a great deal because the last 10s sold in 2022 for $83,098, and you're looking at $50,000 in this one. Now, it is an old cert, so maybe they had to deal with some of the price. And I didn't look at the other two sales if they were old certs or new certs, but regardless, that is a big decline on this card. 1961 Jim Brown. There's only 2 of these in PSA 10s. There's 32 PSA 9s. The last 10 sold in 2016 for $5,600, so you're talking about 10xing that in 8 years. This is really sweet. Also, a 1926-29 exhibits. This has Red Roofing and Babe Ruth, both Hall of Famers. So you should know Ruth is a Hall of Famer. And this one sold for $62,312. And it was mentioned that this autograph is undergraded. And the Ruth looks nice on the front. I forget what the Red Roofing looks like on the back, but I assume that maybe the roofing was bad and they did the aggregate of the 2 autographs. Regardless, I don't know if this should have got 7, but 1952 Mickey Mantle in a $74,000. All right, the 1952 set, all PSA 8 graded. It said it would be a top 20 set. This one sold for $90,000. So you look at the price point, right? The Mantle loan in the 8 sold for $20,000. So you already dropped down to $70,000 for everything else in over here. I'm sure that Maze does pretty well too. I don't even know what an 8 goes for, but if you assume it's $10,000 or $15,000, it gives you the kind of approximate of what the rest of these are in an 8. Number 2 is a 1991 Topps Desert Shield complete set. It says number 4 set, but it has a 10.738 GPA with 100 cards graded. PSA 9, sorry, I misread that. With 10.738 with 100 cards graded PSA 9, and all others are graded PSA 10 Gem Mint. It's like my GPA in high school being a 732 is super inflated because you can't get higher than a 10. This sold for $102,000. And lastly, a T206 Eddie Plank in a 4, considered the second best card in the T206 set. The rumor is the printing plate caused this to be a short print again. Rumored $318,000. And that is a wrap. Thanks guys for checking out this video. If you're new here and you aren't subscribed, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I try to cover at least 2 or 3 different auction recaps every single month, and I also have a full eBay series and much more. So a ton of content for you guys to take a look at. We also have a few channel members, so thank you Jordan, Giles, Alaska Picker, and Aaron Herbert. All right, see you guys in another video.